Hello group, Jeff here. Today I'd like to show you how I made my Hubble Palette image. And the image that I'm going to use is the same one that I've posted to the group. I made it in Photoshop, so it was an AP run in Nina where I had bias flats, darks, and lights. I used Serial to create or pre-process all that data and then do the stretch. And the image that I'm using is what was the result of the serial run. So the first thing I would like to show you or tell you is that it's kind of a two-step process. The first step is to break out the channels individually, and then do just a little bit of work on them, and then make a new image of the same size, and then move those channels into the appropriate location. And because this was a one-shot color camera with a dual band filter, the hydrogen went to the red, and the green and blue channels got the oxygen data. So there is no sulfur. So we have to fake the sulfur out somehow. And there's a couple ways that you can do that. One is to use the blue channel as the sulfur data, because it's very faint to begin with. Or you can use the red channel and de-stretch it. In this particular video, to keep it short, I'm just going to use the blue channel. You can experiment on your own. So let's get going. I'm going to get rid of my face, and I'm going to take us to a web page where I found the most useful information, and I'll put a link below the video for this web page. And these are why this page is important is he gives you the selective color channels, or the selective colors, and what you have to make the changes to. And we can make an action that will perform these 4 selective color applications. So after you separate out the channels, do a little work on them, and then bring the channels into a new image, you will get something that looks pretty close to this. But because we don't have sulfur data, it will not be quite this green. We'll have some more aquas and blues and stuff like that in there. And then as we start applying the sulfur, or not the sulfur, but the selective color changes, the image starts to do this until we get to here. Now, again, this is narrowband data. He actually has sulfur data. We don't. So we can get close, but it won't be 100% a 100% true Hubble palette. But it might. I think it's close enough for hand grenades and horseshoes. I'm not a scientist. I'm more into the art of this stuff, so I liked it. Looks great. So let's get going. I'm going to open up Photoshop. And this is the image that everyone has seen on the group. This is what it looked like coming out of Serial. Right now it's huge. It's like 9,600 by 6,400 pixels. It's very large. And I'm going to make it smaller, just to speed things up. Now, what I want to let you know up front is if you have more than one camera that you would want to do this with, pick the biggest camera that you have, the biggest sensor data, and then create the action using that, because this you can't start small and go big. The data gets cropped. So if you start big and go small, basically what you'll wind up with is a smaller image in the center of a white background. Now, when we get to making the actual new images, you don't need to pick white. I happen to pick white. You can use transparent background, you can use a black background. White would be easier to crop, I think, but you can do what you want. So let's get going. The first thing that I need to do on this image, now that it's small, is I want to flatten the image, which for me is step one. I'm going to do a gradient exterminator, then a noise exterminator. This image is pretty clean, so I don't need to do the noise exterminator, but I'm going to do it anyways just to show you. And then a star exterminator. So what we'll have when this action runs is we'll have 3 new layers: a star layer, a background, and then the original image. So I'm going to run this by clicking on step 1. And it's starting to run. It's doing the noise exterminator. It's already done the gradient. Now you won't always see it being done because it's flying through this rather quickly. And then the next step is the star exterminator. This will take a little time, so what I will do is pause the camera and then come back. Alrighty, we're back, and it's done. So you can see that we have the star layer, we have the background layer, and then we have the original layer. So I'm going to turn these all back on. And you want to, if you are removing the stars, I feel that it does a better job with the stars removed. But if you don't want to have the stars removed, you can do it on an original. For all intents and purposes, you can do it on this image where you have both the stars and the background embedded in it. It's just that the stars could possibly muck up if you do a little sweetening on each channel, you're going to sweeten those stars. So I prefer to remove the stars and do it that way. So now we're going to start making our actions to create the individual channels, and then do a little work on those channels by flattening the backgrounds so that they're all the same, and then taking those channels and moving them into a new image. And that's the beginnings of the Hubble look. So I'm going to click on the plus sign to create a new action, and we'll call this SHO BRG. And the BRG represents the blue in the red in the green, and the green in the blue. So as soon as I hit record, the next action that I perform on the image will start showing up in the list below here. And you can see that the record action is on. So I'm going to turn off this layer and select this. That's important. I'm going to channels. I'm going to select the red channel. I'm going to do a Control A, a Control C, a Control N. We'll call this red. We want grayscale, and it's going to be 16-bit. And here's where you can pick if you don't want a white background. I'm going to create this and then Control V to paste in the red. I'm going to go to layers and then merge down, so that all we have is the one layer here. I'm going back to the original image. I'm going to select channels, and now the green. I'm going to do Control A, Control C, Control N. This will be green. Grayscale, 16-bit, create. Control V, go to layers, merge down the layer. I'm going back to the original image, channels, selecting the blue, Control A, Control C, Control N, call this blue. Grayscale 16-bit, create, Control V, select layers, merge it down. So now I have my 3 channels marked red, green, and blue. And what I want to do is flatten these layers. So we're going to grab the red channel. I'm going to open up my Astroflats Pro. And the first 2 sliders you want at 100%. That means they aren't going to do anything to the image. And we're going to take the dark noise, and this is where I happen to like it. You can pick anything you want, but as long as you use the same one each time on each channel. So I'm going to say OK. You can see what it's done to the red channel. Now we're going to go to the green channel. I'm going to filter, and you'll see that the top thing in the filters is the last, where is it? Filter. The last filter that was run is here, and it will use the same setting. So I'm going to select that. You can see what it's done. It's made the oxygen channel a little more contrasted, gave it more separation. We're going to do the same thing to the blue channel, which has got my sulfur data in it. Go to filter, select the Astroflats at the top, and you can see that the sulfur channel has now got some separation. So these are my 3 channels. I'm going to select Control N, call this SHO BRG. This will become an RGB image, 8-bit, or 16-bit, I'm sorry. Create. And now I want to go to the red. I want to do a Control AC. I want to go to the new image that we just created, the SHO image. Go to Channels, select the green channel because the red is going into green. And select Control V. Now I want to grab the green channel, Control A and Control C. I'm going back to my SHO channel, select the blue channel because the green is going in the blue, select Control V, go to the blue channel, Control A, Control C, go to SHO, red channel, Control V. Now select the RGB at the top, go to layers, and you can see we have the beginnings of our Hubble look. And if we open up that web page again, you can see it's very close, but because we don't have that sulfur data, we're getting hurt a little bit. But that's okay. So now the next action that I want to make, I'm going to turn off this. I'm going to drop that, and I'm going to make another action. And this is where we're going to make an action that will use those selective colors. So this will be Hubble. Oops. Hubble. Selective color. Record. And I'm going to go to image, adjust, selective color. And I think the first one is green. Yes, so we want minus 100, minus 25. So we select green, minus 100, minus 25, enter. You can see it's made a pretty good change already. So now we're going to go to image, adjust, selective color again. And the next one we want is yellow. We want minus 100 plus 25. Plus 25. It's getting closer. One more selective color. Adjust, selective color. And now we're going to start working on the cyans. Whoops, sorry. So we're selecting cyan, and I believe it's -1 and -100 for yellow. -1 and -100. Say okay. And we're really getting close now. So one more adjustment, selective color, cyan again. And it will be -25, -100 for the magenta. Magenta is -25 and -100 on the yellows. And then we can stop the action because it's done. So we've made the two actions that can be used on any image after this. And what I would do now is start to play with the colors a little bit. So I like a little more contrast in my images, as you may have noticed. So I'm going to bump up with a curve and do something like this. I'm going to maybe just bring the white mids up a little bit, like that. And now I want to do a hue and saturation. In the hue and saturation, we want to work on the yellows. And you can see how that made it a little bit browner. The greens, maybe. Something like that. The cyans are blues, and you can see the blues get darker. And that's not a bad image. We'll leave it here, but I think you get the hint. You can add a little more saturation into these colors if you want. The only thing missing now are the stars. So what we got to do is go back to the original image, turn off these two layers, turn on the star layer, do a Control A and a Control C, go to our SHO image, make sure that the top layer is selected, do a Control V. Oops, sorry, I screwed up. Undo. I didn't have the top layer selected. Control A, Control C, Control V. That's better. And now I'm just going to do a dodge. And now I have my stars in. So in relatively short order, we created two actions that give us the Hubble palette. So what I want to do now is delete these and then run the actions. We'll turn all these back on. Make sure that this is selected. Open up the action palette. And I'm going to start with the first one that we made, which is the SHO BRG, and we're going to run it. Okay, that looks good. Now I'm going to grab my Hubble Selective Color Action, and I'm going to run it. And we're done. So in less than 30 seconds, you can get the Hubble palette look. So now all you would need to do would be to do, like a curve or a level, and that hue and saturation is an important one because it really hones those colors for you. So if you have any questions, you know where I live. I will not make my actions available, which is why I'm doing the video. You can make your own because these are system specific. You may not have the same plugins that I do. and it's also image specific. And that's important. So if you're going to make these actions and you're going to use them on multiple cameras or with multiple cameras, you want to pick the largest sensor you have and perform the action or make the action with that sensor data first, because then you can use the action on the smaller sensors. You'll just have to crop the data before you do your Hubble selective color, because the white will throw it off. So if you have any questions, you know where I live, and we'll see you in the group. Thanks.